Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Seth's Car segment. Today we've got this, which is a 2009 Volvo S60, and today I'm going to show you all why Volvos get a bad rap, and I think they're more interesting than you might think. So this particular S60 is of the P2 generation, which ran from about 1999 to 2009. So it was a pretty long production range, and generally by this point, which this car is a 2009, like I said, the design was a bit dated, but just taking a look at some of the closer aspects of the design, you've got relatively rectangular headlights, a rectangular grille, circle fog lights, and another rectangular grille. So generally, the design was not very avant-garde, if you will, but it's very timeless, and I think that's what gives Volvos their classical reputation. Moving over to the wheels, we have a 17-inch alloy wheel. This is actually a pretty nice design. I believe this was special to the 2009s. It's wrapped in a 235 section Continental tire. I don't really like these very much. They don't grip very well, but that's an aside point. Moving along the side, we've got a relatively standard side view mirror with a little indicator lamp that lights up when you lock it. You got your door handles, which we'll get to later. Again, 17-inch wheels. And then around back, you've got, honestly, a bit of a flat trunk design. You've got this line here, which is just kind of a classic Volvo hip thing, which if you look at the back of it straight on, provides for a pretty interesting shape, especially in the taillights. Now, what I hadn't mentioned yet is this one is actually an SE, which means special edition, as you can imagine. That was a specific trim level for 2009, which it was one of only 880 made for the United States, and it was meant to celebrate the end of this design, as 2009 was the final model year. Just a little side point, another way you can tell a 2009 apart from any other year is this Volvo lettering on the back. Any other year, it's going to be just tight together here. It'll just say Volvo, and there's no spacing, but on the 09s, you get this spacing, which is honestly a bit more modern, because that's what they do today. Over here, we've got our 2.5 T badge, which signifies that this has the 2.5 liter turbocharged inline 5-cylinder, which is a pretty cool motor in my opinion. You'll hear why later. It has a pretty cool exhaust note. And then we've also got our little chrome exhaust tip, which is just a single exit. There's not a second one over here. But in general, the S60's design, while honestly almost 30 years old, still looks very good to this day, and I think has stood the test of time. So now, if we move on to the inside of the S60, we'll note I believe this is called taupe leather interior. It's beige. It's a relatively standard beige color. Taking a look at our door panel, you have this aluminum-ish weave trim. I don't really know what this was called. It's a silver. It looks nice. I believe this was special to the special edition. You get your lock, window child locks for the back, window controls for all 4 windows, and your power mirrors. Now, if we step in, we can take a look at our 3-spoke leather-wrapped steering wheel with audio controls, as well as your cruise control buttons. Over here, we've got our turn signal stalk, which also controls this little display in the gauge cluster. You've got your headlight controls, which you just leave on this, and they turn on. They're always on, other than when you have the car off. That's a Volvo thing. It has to do with safety. A lot of stuff in this car is safety related. You get your gas cap release, your fog light buttons, this controls how bright your gauges will be when the headlights are on at night. And then over here, if I can get a good angle on it, you've got your windshield wiper stalk, which modulate how much windshield wiping speed, I guess, you want. And this controls whether you want rain sensing wiping on, which I tend to find is a bit sensitive in this car. Moving over here, we've got our radio, which has this random hole. I've never understood what this is for. It looks a bit out of place. It just seems like wasted space, but it's storage if you want to use it. You've got your FM, AM, CD, and auto options. This will help you scroll through channels, This scans for more channels. This will exit if it goes into a mode you don't want it to be in. You have these switches for your bass, treble, balance, and fader, which click out very nicely. It's like clicking a pen almost. These numbered switches are going to be for your radio presets if you want to set 6 favorited stations. Volume switch, which is like has like a rubberized coating on it, and you can push that to turn your radio on and off. This toggle over here changes your source, which will be like aux, FM, AM, that sort of thing, and you push to vary the menus that you're controlling. Down here we've got our air conditioning controls, recirc, AC on off, fan speed, temperature for the driver's side, temperature for the passenger side. This controls where your airflow comes out. That's just your auto. That's probably what you're going to want to leave it on. Your front and rear defrosters, heated seats. And then moving down here, we've got your headrest release for the back seats. If those headrests were up, they would pop down when I hit this button. This locks your trunk from the outside to where nobody can get in unless this has been turned off. And then you've got your 12-volt cigarette style outlet. Moving over here, we've got our 5-speed automatic transmissions gear selector. I'll go into the powertrain a little bit more later. It also has a manual mode. If you put the car in gear, you can bump it over and control which gear it's in. I can demonstrate that more in a minute. This is for your wet weather mode, which keeps the car in a higher gear and prevents wheel spin in slippery conditions like snow or rain. Over here, we've got a little bit of a roller blind to cover your cup holders, your parking brake, and your kind of creaky center console, which if you push once opens up to give you 2 more cup holders, and if you lift this up you get some storage space with your aux port in there. So generally this interior is not the most outrageous design, but it's very simple. It does exactly what you would need it to, and in my opinion I think it's very driver centric. Sorry about that. This thing all points towards the driver, which honestly, when you're driving, it gives you a very good control of everything. You don't have to keep your eyes too far off the road. And again, I think that all turns back into Volvo's key, which is safety. Now, speaking of keys, we've got Volvo's tried and true switchblade key, which, as the name would suggest, opens up like this. You get your lock, unlock, trunk release, panic, and this yellow button, which to many just seems kind of confusing, but if we take a step to the outside, I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the daylight, activates exterior and interior lighting, which again, I've made this point however many times now, goes back to the safety of your Volvo and you. It's just keep you safe as you walk up to it at night. Anyway, now that we've got the key, let's go ahead and insert down here and then twist and hold to start up your inline 5-cylinder. In the gauge cluster, you've got your miles, trip odometer, shows what gear you're in, which here, I'll demonstrate this now. Put it in drive, you can bump it over, and then you can change which gear it's in. You've got your warning lights over here and your fuel gauge, obviously tachometer, speedometer, engine temperature. But now, let's go ahead and take a look at the engine. Which, pull this little gray handle down here, it'll release. Again, both front windows are fully automatic. And now, let's go ahead and pop the hood. Now, rather tightly fit in here, you'll find your 2.5 liter turbocharged inline 5-cylinder. Makes about 204 horsepower and 240 pound-feet of torque. Don't quote me on those numbers. It may be more for both, maybe less. I'm not really sure. It's a generally pretty smooth engine. It's paired with a 5-speed automatic, like I said, which is nestled somewhere in here. You can expect to get around a 20 mile per gallon average. At least that's what I've experienced in my time running premium fuel, which gets kind of expensive. It's an 18-gallon fuel tank, and I mean, I only get like a week out of a tank of gas in this thing, so it's not too great. But if you drive softly, maintain good gas mileage driving, I guess it'll be okay, but generally this engine's pretty good. It's known to be pretty reliable. Just take care of it and it'll take care of you. So I rate the 5-cylinder. It's good. You'll hear why I like it the most later, as I'll give you a little rev, and it sounds pretty cool. You'll have to see. Taking a look in the back seat, just quickly. There's not much to see back here. It's relatively plain. I'm about 6 feet tall, and this is my driving position in the driver's seat, and I don't fit. It's very tight back here. There's no space for my knees. The headroom is almost non-existent. You do see you have lumbar support on your driver's seats, as well as a little 12-volt outlet and this thing, which I think is supposed to pop out, but doesn't. You've got pockets in the seats here, as well as a little armrest, which is filled with napkins, as you would expect. Got cup holders, and this thing will pull down and give you a pass-through to your trunk. But like I said, there really is not that much space back here at all. It is a small car, but it does give you a great view of the front. All right, and that concludes this quick little walk around of my 2009 Volvo S60. It's a pretty neat car. It's aging well. It drives nicely, apart from the turning radius, which is worse than a bus. But in general, I don't think it's too bad of a car, especially for its age and how cheap you can get these for. If you're looking for a really safe, fun to drive first car, this is a fantastic option to consider. Thank you so much for tuning in to Seth's car segment, and I hope to see you all in the next episode. Thank you.